Tutor Paula here, back with another question, calculus, differentiation, and the power rule. This is rules of exponents as well. We've been given this expression in the blue. We want dy dx or y prime. So we have to first know the power rule. That's about multiplying the exponent and the coefficient and then subtracting 1 from the exponent. Okay, so we have to know what the coefficient is, a, and what the exponent is, n. So first things first is we have to recognize that there's an imaginary, not imaginary, there's a default 1 there. And so we're going to put all those x's to the first power and then understand that if we have a root, then you have a fraction as an exponent. So if we have the b root of x to the a power, that's x to the a over b. Okay, so the number on the inside goes on top and the number on the outside goes on bottom. So for our example here, well, the 1 is on the inside, the 3 is on the outside, so that's to the 1/3. There's a default 2 for the square root, so that would be x to the 1/2 power. For our middle term, we have to understand with our rules of exponents that if you have a variable in the denominator, its exponent can actually be brought to the numerator and then made negative. Well, rules in math are bidirectional, so if I had 3x to the negative n, that's the same thing as 3 over x to the positive n. This is really challenging for some students. So take a look at rules of exponents if that's a hard one. Well, ours is the second example. It's x to the first in the denominator. That's x to the negative 1 in the numerator. All right, now we can start differentiating using the power rule. We're going to put in our default coefficients of 1, okay, if it's not already listed. And we can now do a times n, x to the n minus 1. So that's 1 times 1/3, x to the 1/3 minus 1. 1 is 3/3. We need the denominators to be the same there. Let's move on. Okay, doing the second term, that's easy because there's no fractions there. Now we're doing the third term, 1 times 1/2, x to the 1/2 minus 1. Well, minus 1 in terms of halves, that's 2 over 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So now we can just simplify. That becomes x to the negative 2/3. That's x to the negative 2. That's x to the negative 1/2. And now we can, again, make our exponents positive. We have to move those guys down to the denominator and make them positive. So if it's in the numerator and has a negative exponent, it's going to go to the denominator and have a positive exponent. So that becomes x to the 2/3 in the denominator, x to the positive 2 in the denominator, and then x to the positive 1/2 in the denominator. Okay, now they're all positive. Okay, now we have to realize that rules in math are bidirectional. So if we have a fraction as an exponent, we can then go and change it back to a root. Remember, the number on bottom is the root. The number on top will stay there. So that's the cubed root or the third root of x squared. That doesn't change. It's not a fraction. And that'll be the square root, or the root is the 2. But that's default, so you don't have to list that. I hope this helps.